Hi, I'm Nick Mandolia from Visual South. Today we're going to do a high-level overview of Infor's CloudSuite Industrial. In this overview, we're going to talk about the completeness of the Infor CloudSuite Industrial solution. We want to highlight things like ease of use and navigation, data analytics and collection and mining that data, and we'll show a process flow through the supply chain planning and scheduling functionality. Let's get started. Let's start off by taking a quick look at what a typical industrial manufacturing plant looks like today. As you can see, it encompasses quite a few different processes within the same environment. So getting everything connected together from sales and marketing all the way through logistics and shipping is critical to any company today. Looking at the functional footprint of Infor CloudSuite SaaS model, you can see it includes all of the major functionality that would normally be broken up into third-party products with other systems. Full financial management, including asset management, dashboards, business intelligence, human resources and payroll, projects and project resource planning. We see that projects are a part of lots of manufacturing facilities today. Full supply chain planning and management, including MRP, master production scheduling, and what CloudSuite does very well and different is something called advanced planning and scheduling, or APS, which we'll go into a little bit here in a little while. Full sales order management, which also includes customer relationship management, or CRM, fully integrated into Microsoft Outlook. Service management for those manufacturers that also service and provide warranties perhaps with their products. A full technology suite, which is very important. The development framework that Infor used to develop the entire CloudSuite product is included with the SaaS model. That means that you can modify and change any of the forms that you see. You can add functionality, you can extend tables, you can create fields in tables. You have the ability to create forms from scratch. And all of this is upgradable because you're using the underlying technology within the CloudSuite framework. It also has a full quality management solution. Tracking quality by supplier, in-process, customer quality, and performance reporting is all part of the standard CloudSuite Industrial solution within SaaS. We're going to use this homepage as a guide to cover the different areas that we're going to do an overview for. We're going to have 4 main categories that we're going to cover, with user experience and ease of use, ways to personalize your data. We'll do a quick functional overview of the supply chain and production management processes. And then we'll just cover a few things that are included in the complete solution within CloudSuite Industrial. So now let's look at the user experience and ease of use functionality within CloudSuite Industrial. We're going to start off looking at role-based homepages. And what you're looking at here on my screen now is a homepage, and I just built this one from scratch just to use as a menu kickoff screen. But the system comes with role-based homepages for just about every function within a company. Production, controller, executive, customer service, buyer, inventory control, salesperson, and so on. And then of course you could build your own. So out of the box, you can start off with something that might match what you want to do, and then you can simply copy that and change it to your own liking. And it's very easy. We're going to show a quick example of how we do that. And I'm going to click on my role-based homepage here. And what I started off with was an executive homepage, and I just copied it and modified it. I added my own menu for the things I go to most on here. But just to show how easy it is to modify these homepages, I'm going to do something simple. I'm going to add a pipeline chart to my homepage. So I'm simply going to go to Edit. I'm going to add a widget. All these boxes you see on the screen are called widgets. I'm going to do a quick search for pipeline, There are hundreds of existing widgets available. And I'm going to look for my pipeline value. So I'm just going to click Add Widget and close. Now if I go to the bottom, you'll see my pipeline value widget is on here. And I can do other things. Maybe I want to move this up here. Maybe I want to stretch it a little bit because it's a nice little chart widget. So I can change the size and position of my widgets. And then I'm simply going to save it. My screen's going to refresh. And now I can see my pipeline value added to my home page. Next thing we'll look at is collaboration feed. Collaboration is very critical in today's environment, especially when you look at all of the different departments within an organization from that menu that we looked at earlier. All these different departments need to communicate with each other, and in the past it was either a phone call or an email, and emails get lost, they're hard to track. But within CloudSuite Industrial, we have what's called a collaboration feed or a mingle collaboration. And this is where we can send messages between groups. We can have groups or departments created or individuals. So if you're communicating with people about certain things, you can send communication back and forth. It's also a place where you'll get your alerts through workflows and things such as that. So it's really a one-stop shop for all of the things you need to do and collaborate. As an example, here's a message I received from Rod letting me know that I need to check on this customer order. And you can see that I did respond to him and then Rod responded back. So it's a great place to keep track of that communication that's going on. And not only did he send me this, but he sent me a link to what he was talking about. So when he asked me to check that customer order, all I have to do is click on that and click the link that comes with it to hop right over to that customer order to take a look. Integrated document management. Infor document management is also included with the SaaS model. And it's a full document management system. Rev control, check in, check out, creating attributes on documents and assigning those to different areas. As an example, looking at context-sensitive documents in items. If I was to open that up, if I'm in an item record and I'm working on a particular item, I can look at my context screen that is connected to this particular item. I'm looking at my FA 10,000. If I open up my context, I can see from my document management drawings or any other files that are associated with this particular document. I can click on it to open it to take a quicker look at it. Or I can go right into document management and see what it looks like within the document management program. And this is where I could check out, make changes to it if I want, and it's going to keep a history of those changes and allow me to even revert back to different versions if I wanted to. But it's a very powerful, complete document management system. .360 views. There are several 360 views within the system for customers, vendors, items, employees. But we'll just look at customers for now. But a 360 view is really nice because it gives you a full summary of everything going on with that particular record, whether it's a customer, vendor, item, employee. Here we're looking at a customer. I'm looking at coordinated bicycles, but I can choose or search for whatever customer I want in my list to get a view. And I can see the overview screen, available credit, late orders, things such as that. I can dig deeper into these drop-down lists. Maybe I want to see what their payment history is. I can see things within the CRM functionality. What interactions have I had with this customer? I can see what opportunities I might have out there. And I also have ways to go right to the opportunity details from here. So I have full drill down capability from within these screens. Maybe I want to see what customer orders I have open for that customer. So it really is a great way to see everything related to that particular customer, including service orders, by the way. So do I have any open incidents? I happen to have a lot. This is my number one customer. But 360 views are a great way to get lots of information all in one area. Mobile apps. Here you can see an emulator of my iPhone and the apps that I have on my iPhone. So I have apps to things like Infor document management that we just looked at. So I can see my documents right on my phone. I can open those documents. I can actually add documents with the camera on my phone. So I can take a picture or a video or look in the library of pictures on my phone and upload those to document management right from my phone. I also can go to that same collaboration tool, Infor Mingle, and get all of my notices in here and reply to them within Mingle, all from my phone. We also have service and burst business intelligence here, which we'll look at a little bit later on. Next, we're going to look at data. How do we get to our data? How do we analyze our data with business intelligence? How can we filter our data? How can we use the data that we're collecting throughout the day? So over here on my Personalize Your Data widget, I have a few shortcuts. And first, we're going to look at business intelligence and analytics. And the CloudSuite Industrial SaaS model comes with Burst Business Intelligence Analytics. And here's an example of a sales analysis analytic. And you can see I have different sections. I have a sales margin percentage analysis giving me data from 2016 to today. My gross margins by product analysis. And all of these different sections are individual reports, but they are all related. And when you design a report such as this in the business intelligence system, it knows that they're all interconnected, so that when I put it all together and I do something like selecting, let's say I'm selecting 2017. Right now I'm looking at the years 2016 through 2020. But I only want to look at 2017. I can simply drag over the 2017 numbers, and all of my other reports are going to filter by what I dragged on in that one section. Same thing if I was to now say, okay, I'm looking at 2017, but just show me my top 3 customers from 2017. So I can add further filters and notice how things change within the system. So there are lots of things that you could do within the data analytics within Burst Business Intelligence that give you a very powerful view into the system. Okay, back to our personalizing data. The next thing we can look at is drill down views. And one of the big things within any system is you want to have the ability that when you're looking at a piece of data, how do I get to the underlying records that created that data? And what we're looking at here is an example of what we call a functional area home page. So in this example, we're looking at inventory control, but we also have functional areas for most of the main functions within a company. So we're looking at quick links to the things I use most and a few quick indicators and charts of data that are important to me. But really what I'm looking at here is the ability to drill into data. And I'm going to go to my navigator. The navigator is great because here's where it starts providing you with all of the data that is being collected throughout the system. And in this case, of course, it's related to inventory control. Depending on which form you're in, you would have data related to that. But as an example here, let's look at transactions. And I'm in a multi-site database, so I can choose transactions by site, or I can create groups of sites, which is what I created here. So I'm really looking at, in this group, I'm looking at LA, London, and my Dallas site. But the system is keeping track of every transaction that happens within the system, and I could see all of that here. The beauty of it is I can filter through this. So let's say I'm looking for a specific item. I can filter on that item ID. Let's say I know it starts with FA. So I can put a star or an asterisk as my filter, and I can just hit my filter on that button. So now it's pulling back only the data related to that. And if I wanted to add another piece of information, let's say I didn't want to see all of the different types of transactions. I only want to see, maybe miscellaneous receipts. So I can come in here and then choose to see just miscellaneous receipts and parts that start with FA, and then filter by that. So it's a great way to drill into the data that you're looking for and need right away. Especially when you come into things like expiring lots, it's a great way to see, if you're using lot and serial trace and you have expiration dates on them, I can go to details by right-clicking on any of my records that have detail behind it, and it will take me to the source record for that information. Another thing we have that we can use as drill down information would be critical numbers. Now, critical numbers think of as KPIs, or key performance indicators. And we have over 70 of these available. You can pick and choose which ones you want to see on your screen. It just adds the ones that are most popular for the current function you're looking at. An example of this would be something like inventory value. So if I was to just click on that indicator, and I could see that, looking at it, somewhere between probably around $6,200, which is, $6.2 million worth of inventory, which I can see what that is there. It's in the red zone because I can set the values of where I want it to be alerting me and showing up red when it's higher than the value I want to keep in inventory. If I want to drill into that and see what's making that up, I just click on that critical number, and it shows me all of my warehouses and the value in each one of those warehouses. So I can do a couple of things to drill in. I can say, well, my main warehouse has the most inventory, it's over $6 million. I can hit detail and go and look at the information about that main warehouse, or I have these sub drill downs which are related to the critical number. And this one only has one, but you could get, multiple sub drill downs depending on what data you want to get to related to the main or the first drill down. But here, if I wanted to see the detail, I can hit that sub drill down button, and that will show me all of the items in the main warehouse and their value that are making up that $6 million. And here you can see it. And once I'm in here, I can do things just the same from a filter perspective. I can come in and say, hey, I want to, I want to see where the value is greater than 0. I don't need to see my 0 values. So now I'm only seeing values 0. I could go in and look for negative inventory, value less than 0. So that's just a great way to drill down right from that critical number. Another thing that's nice about these critical numbers is if I right click, I can do something called snapshots. And I have mine set to take snapshots on it was a daily, and then I change it to a weekly basis just to get some information in here. But I can see over time, going from today backwards, depending on the time period you want, whether it's weekly, monthly, daily. You'd probably do this maybe weekly or monthly at the most. But you can see over time what that trend is looking like. And of course, this is a demo database, so a lot of it's flat. But in a normal database, you will see these going up and down, and it gives you good visibility into what that trend for that particular analytic looks like over time. And then we also have data views. Data views are great because it gives you a chance to not only create your own reports from the data that's being given. In this case, I'm looking at an inventory data view, but I can do things like modify this how I want. Here's my part description here, and I probably want to move that over next to my part ID or my item ID. I want to group this by warehouse, so now I have a grouping by warehouse, and then I can just simply save that to give it my own report name, and it'll keep it in the file. So as I modify these and change them to my liking, I'll have a group of reports that I created simply from moving things around, filtering. I can create sum totals in numerical fields and so on. So from a user standpoint, having the ability to manage their own data and create their own reports from these data views is very powerful. I also have the ability here to drill down. So it's not just a report, it's a living report. So I can right click and do the same thing and go to details to go to the detail record for that particular item, or drill into any of the other information related to that piece of data that I right clicked on. Okay, if we go back now, some of the other things we could do with filter, replace, and append. I'm going to click on that, and what we're going to use is the item record as an example of how we can move things around. And this is a typical form within CloudSuite Industrial, and it's broken up really into two sections. Over here on the left side is what we call a grid view, and over here on the right side is the detail view. So whatever I'm pointing at on the grid view is what's showing me the detail on the detail view. I can also just work by expanding this in full grid mode. This is a fully editable screen where I can make my changes here and sort and update and do anything that I could do in the regular form also. The nice thing about it is this grid mode gives you the ability to search for what you're looking for. As an example, if I'm filtering, I'm just going to filter this. It defaults to pulling in all my records, but now I want to look for a specific record or a group of records. So maybe I want to look for records that start with FA. So I use FA and then my wildcard, which is an asterisk. I can change that to whatever I want it to be. And then I hit my filter, and now it pulls back all of my items that start with FA. The great thing about this is once I create that filtered grid mode, and if I use a filter such as that often, and I can filter on multiple fields and different categories if I want, I can simply come over and say new filter, and this will take the changes that I made already, and if I had other properties that I selected in the filter, it would show here also, and simply save that. And what that would do is the next time I come into this, instead of having to just to click in those fields and do a search, I simply come into my filter section here and I would choose. And in some examples here, I chose on the planner code of FM and JI. So all I would have to do is hit those filters and it would pull up all of the items that match that planner code of FM that I created a filter for. The great thing about this is with these grid modes is, let's say I wanted to make a mass change, like the planner code is FM. Maybe I want to change it to NM or whatever the case may be, because that's a filtering field. I can go to System, Edit, Replace Values in Collection. I can choose my planner code. And say that I am changing the FM with NM. Replace all. And it comes back letting me know the replace was complete, so it replaced those. But notice over here on the left, this little orange diamond. That lets me know that these records have been changed, but I have not yet saved them. So I still have the ability to say, maybe I don't want to do that, or hey, I do want to do that for all of them except maybe this one. So for this particular one, I'm just going to refresh that to remove it. Remove the change and put it back to FM and then save it. So it's a great way to do that, and most forms within CloudSuite Industrial have this grid mode. And if you think about the things you could do with things like customer pricing or vendor pricing, you could do mass updates like that. And the other thing you could do, not only just changing it in a mass change like that, but you also have the ability to take that grid and paste from Excel. So if you have an Excel sheet with all that information on it, formatted the way the grid is formatted, you just simply copy it from Excel and paste it and save it right back in here, and it will update everything. You verify it, it runs it through all the proper checks to make sure that you're not violating any rules, and allows you to save that. So a real easy way to import data into the system, and also export data, because I can send all of this data or that grid data right to Excel also. So it is a simple way of creating fast reports based on your filters also. Designer with Mongoose. Mongoose is the design tool that Infor uses to develop the CloudSuite product, and almost all Infor products for that matter. It comes with the cloud version of the Cloud Suites. So as an example, I'm just going to use my opportunities form to do an easy change. You can create forms from scratch like this using the tool if you needed to. But you can make easy changes also from an IT perspective, and of course it's with proper security. You can have security to make small changes or create forms from scratch on a higher level. So in this example, in my opportunities, let's say I'm creating a new opportunity. By default, my required fields are my customer or prospect, and if I filled one of these in, the other one will gray out because you can't have both. It would be one or the other, but one of those is required. My status is required, but other than that, I really don't have to fill anything else in. And let's say that I want to make the description field a required field. I never want anybody to create an opportunity without having a description in the opportunity. So the way that I can do that, and I'm just going to filter this back out so it's not in new mode. The way that I would do that is I simply go to my design button and it's going to open up that form. It asks me what scope I am changing. So I have user, which means it's for me, or if I have the security to do it for another user, I can choose which user I want to make the change for. I can do it by group. So if I only want the purchasing folks to see it, I can choose the purchasing group. Or site, meaning everybody will see the changes that I make to this. And in that example, I'd probably do it by site, but I'm just going to keep it user. And it opens up the form in design mode. So if I go down to my description field, so maybe in my description, if I click on that particular field, it's called description, but maybe I want to call it opportunity description. So I just changed that and add opportunity to it. So now it says opportunity description. And then my field itself, this is the opportunity description field. All I want to do now is go to my data source and say that my required is true. So as easy as that. Now when I save this record, that field will now have a red bar around it because it will also be required. Same thing if I had a field on here that I did not want to see. I have the ability to hide fields that you don't need to see. So if I want to hide a field, I can say, yep, hidden is true. So it's an easy way to remove fields that your company may not use and don't need to see on the screen, just to clean the screen up or make it easier for the end user to be able to only see the fields that would pertain to them. It's a very powerful tool that comes with the system. And that's how easy it is to filter and get into data and bring data in, look at data, drill, and personalize your screens to only the data that you want to see on your screens. Now we're going to look at a high-level overview of the supply chain management and planning process. This is just a high-level overview. You can really get very detailed with supply chaining and planning, especially when you get into the planning and scheduling modules, which CloudSuite Industrial has many options to fit just about any business requirement. So to start off, we're going to look at like a simple product definition of one of our favorite bicycles, the FA10000. And before I go into the design of this, I just wanted to show also that you have the ability with these responsive forms that if I was to be running this on a tablet, let's say, I can now see that it resizes itself to fit on a smaller device. So that's really nice. Depending on the type of device you're using, it'll even fit on a phone, should you need to run it on a phone. So our FA10000 bicycle has a master behind it, a bill of material and a routing. So to look at that, all we're going to do is go over to our engineering board. And this is a visual representation of what the routing and bill of materials combined look like. The real nice thing about this is I can see, just by looking at this, the sub-assemblies required for the job rather than trying to read the indents of a text view. The dark blue represent operations or resources. Here's my final assembly area. And the light blue are materials. And some of those materials, you could see anything with what we call a leg coming off of it represents a sub-assembly. So I can see that these first three materials are sub-assemblies, and then the next three are just purchased materials that I would buy, or they could be manufactured and sitting in inventory where I would issue them to this particular job when it becomes a job. So I can see that I do some assembly. I have a bunch of different materials that go into that assembly. Then I do some inspection, and I do some outside packaging. So we send that out to a vendor outside, and we capture all of that, by the way, which once we complete this first operation, CloudSuite Industrial will automatically create a purchase order to that outside vendor for that service, and so on. But I can see by looking at this, if I was to follow one of these paths, that, for example, this frame assembly is part of my bill of materials. So I can see it not only has a subassembly, or the subassembly here, but it also has another level of subassembly associated with that. So it will go as many levels deep as you need to follow along, seeing all of those bills of material. So it's a complete indented bill of material in a visual view here. And I can drill into the detail of these operations and these materials if I wanted to, but it's a real powerful. Okay, and next we're going to look at some planning and scheduling tools. So first, let's just take a look at what the material planning overview for CloudSuite Industrial is. CloudSuite Industrial has several options for planning and scheduling. At the easiest level, we can do master production schedule, which basically means you tell it what you want to make and when you want to make it manually, similar to building a forecast manually, and the system will plan based off of that. No one really wants to do that. The next level, even though we'll call it, it's labeled number 4 here, but it's the next level in complexity, I suppose, which is traditional MRP. Traditional MRP just says, you know, what is the lead time and when do you need it? So if you said you had something with a 30-day lead time and you put something in a system that said it was due today, it would assume that you could get it today, but it would tell you needed to order it 30 days ago in the past. So it doesn't use the today fence as a barrier for planning and scheduling. It still assumes that you could get it today, even though you really didn't release it and there's no way you could get it for 30 days. The next option beyond that is what we call advanced MRP, which is really what is also called infinite APS, APS being advanced planning and scheduling. So this really is a big step up from traditional MRP because it will use actual capacity within the system to schedule. The only thing is it will use that capacity and the time involved rather than the lead times for manufactured items, and it will just back schedule from the due date and assume infinite capacity. So if you have 8 hours worth of capacity on a particular resource and the schedule finds that it needs to schedule 16 or 24 hours in that same bucket, it will. So it doesn't look at the actual capacity of the machine. It just assumes that you will figure out what you're going to run. It'll say, here's all the 3 jobs you need to run. Which one do you want to run? Then we go to the top of the food chain, which is APS, Advanced Planning and Scheduling Planning Mode, which is finite capacity planning. This really and truly takes the finite capacity of your resources into consideration when scheduling. It won't try to schedule and plan materials, for that matter, within a finite capacity zone, meaning if you have 8 hours of capacity, it's going to fill that 8 hours with the first job that has highest priority, and the next job that needs to go there is going to get pushed out or forward, depending on how you want to do it. But it will backward schedule from the due date, find openings in that finite capacity schedule, and also schedule materials based on when it finds that open capacity. For our example, we are going to be using that APS finite planning schedule, and the way that works is it's going to run overnight on a schedule. You can run it during the day if you wanted to, but there's no need to because the system with APS will automatically plan jobs into the schedule as you enter them, so there's no need to run a schedule throughout the day as things change. They're actually being scheduled as you put them in the system. So once that runs, we have something called a material planner workbench, which is the results of that planning. And from a purchase order standpoint, so if we're looking at supply chain as opposed to job, we have other things, but we'll focus on purchase orders and jobs for the most part. But if we're looking at purchase orders and we have today's orders selected, we're really looking at everything that the APS system told us we need to order today or release today in order to get on time by the due date. So it's looking at what the lead time is from that vendor, what the due date is that we said we needed it, or that APS scheduled the resource that needs it, and it backs it up and gives us a release date. So looking, in a perfect world, we're looking at everything on a daily basis of what we should release today and just work on that list. We can work on this week's orders if we want to get ahead of the game with some orders that are beyond today. Or we can look at everything that it planned for as far out as APS will plan, and you can set how far out you want it to actually go, whether it's 6 months, a year, or whatever. Generally, you tie that in with what your longest lead time items might be, and then plus a buffer. But generally, the most common is this week's orders. You're going to work on what's due this week. The nice thing about it is, as I select these lines, I can see up top the comparison. I have two vendors set up for this, a primary and a alternate, and I can compare. The primary vendor is 15 cents a piece and my lead time is 3 days. My alternate is a little bit cheaper but longer lead time. So I could decide whether or not I want to use the alternate because I'm okay with the lead time, or it could be opposite, where the alternate is more expensive but a shorter lead time, and maybe I'm willing to pay the extra money to get it sooner. But you can make those decisions as you go along. You also have something called source rules, and I don't have an example on my screen, but what source rules actually give you the ability to do is split demand among multiple vendors. And there are some requirements out there for some contractors, whether it's government work or automotive, that require you to split your supply between vendors. So if you got for example, if you had to split it 50% among two vendors, you can tell it here who the vendors are, and when planning runs, it would have actually created two planned orders and split them evenly among those vendors according to those source rules. I can drill into the demand, the reasons that I need all of these and so forth. So I have everything at my fingertips to make the decision I need to make on these purchases. But real easy, I can either select all of these lines if I was okay with bringing them all in. I can select a date range and tell it to select everything in that date range, and it will automatically check them for me. And the other thing with that is everything that I check, if I want to go look at my summary, it will let me know the value of everything that I have on my workbench and the value of everything that I selected. So if I have limits to my purchases on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever the case may be, I can keep control of that before I actually go and place these purchase orders to see if I'm within the limits that I need to stay in. And then it's just a matter of hitting generate orders, and it will automatically generate your purchase orders. Same thing for jobs. When you're looking at job orders, your manufactured items, I can work it the same way. I can see why it's needed. I can actually combine where I need to do that, and it's just a matter of selecting what I want to release and generating orders. Very simple. So our APS ran overnight, so it planned my shop for me. It created a schedule. Let's see what that schedule looks like in our shop floor production management. So I'm just going to go to my shop floor management schedule. And I'm using my production planner page to just jump into the things that I would use mostly, because this would be my functional area if I was the planner, and this is where I would get to all the things related to my capacity and planning information. So here I'm going to go to my resource Gantt chart, and this is where I can get a visual view. I can either choose all resources in my shop, or I can create groups of resources if I want to and select those. I'm going to choose all for this example, and I am just going to go maybe 2 weeks out. I don't need to look at a full 6 month or a 1 year schedule or beyond. So I'm just going to choose 2 weeks out. And when it loads my schedule, you can see, so visually, I can see all of these whiter areas as opposed to the gray are my open capacity areas for these particular resources. So as I'm looking at my shop schedule, I can tell, by looking at this, which resources look full, which don't. Obviously, this assembly equipment area is very full because all of my white spaces, for the most part, up until I get to 921, are pretty full. So that's a pretty tight resource right now. I could do things like looking at, highlight my late orders, and it'll turn those red so I can focus on those if I needed to. I would suggest that if your boss is standing behind you, just leave it like this. The other thing I can do also here is, if I wanted to, I can drag and drop resources around or operations around. So if I had multiple resources, I can tell it to move it over to a different resource or a different time or day where applicable. So you have some of that functionality and flexibility there. Lots of other stuff I could do with it here, but that's just an overview. And then another great tool I have is this resource utilization. Resource utilization is wonderful because now I could find where my bottlenecks are. So starting with today's date, and maybe I want to go out 14 days. I'm going to go out to 2 weeks. I like doing it by days because it's more granular, but I can go out weeks, months, however I like to look at this. And my threshold, meaning percent utilization. So I want to see anything that's over 75% utilized. I'm going to filter that, and I get a list, and now I can see, here's my capacity. Here's the total load that is scheduled to go in that capacity, and then I get a percent utilization. So really, once I start looking at high 90s or even low 90s and 100%, that's cause for concern for me. So I may want to investigate, that particular resource to see what's scheduled in it or see what the profile is. So I can go into my load profile and investigate. And here you can see the blue represents the actual jobs that I've released, and then green and orange are representing forecast and planned orders that I have out there that I haven't yet released. So I can see what's coming, even though I don't actually have those jobs released yet. And then, the nice thing about it is I can go here and say, on 9/23, I'm at 100%. I can actually look and see what is scheduled in that job that's causing it to hit that 100% utilization, and I can see I have two operations of the same job in there that's causing that. Okay, next thing we might want to look at from a shop floor planning perspective is there are jobs out there, but people need to report time. They need to issue materials to those jobs or just do material transactions. And that's where we have something called Factory Track to do that shop floor control. So I'm going to log into Factory Track, and this would be what the user out on the shop floor would use. I would scan my badge or use biometrics if you had that enabled. It knows I'm employee number 1, David Daniels, and the first thing you do when you come in for the day is you're going to clock in, and that'll start your time. It'll put you on an indirect labor until you clock into an actual job, which is direct. So it'll capture all of that indirect time also. We're looking at this view in a tablet type mode or a kiosk mode where it's all push button, touchscreen. We can also look at it in a scanner mode, meaning it's an RF scanner perhaps, and we have the same functionality and more related to material movements in the shop, which that would normally be done with the scanner. We're just going to focus right now on the kiosk for the labor portion of what they would do in Factory Track to keep it at a high level overview. So the first thing we would do is go to our labor, and we do have an option if we are using printed travelers with barcodes on them going around with the job on the shop floor. We can simply start a run, scan that traveler, and it would put us on that job, and we would work, and when we're finished with it, come back, just do an end run. It knows which job or jobs, if we're working on multiple jobs, we're working on, and you just let it know that you are complete, how many you completed, and the system's going to calculate how much time you spent to produce those quantities. along with any scraps that you may report also. Other things we could do, we can create teams, and you can log into jobs as teams as opposed to each individual needing to log into the job. It just helps get things started and finished much quicker when you do have multiple people working on a single operation. We're just going to use Workcenter though, and use this tool because it's more of a paperless function, and it allows us to see some good information here. So I'm defaulting to the resource group that I would normally be associated with, but I can change it. That's just a default that I can change if I do work in another department. But over here, I'm just going to click my job list and see what jobs are on the schedule for me to work on. And I would see everything here to work on. So I know that I'm working on job 365 and operation 30. The nice thing about this is that before I even start working on it, if I wanted to see what notes might be associated with this particular operation, I can click on my notes and read, and here I have some assembly instructions, and I can have multiple notes. I can also add notes. Perhaps I want to, I had an issue with this, or the notes were wrong, and I want to add a note letting folks know that, hey, we had some issues. We don't have blue Loctite, we used red Loctite, whatever the case may be. I can also see documents that might be attached to this that was attached using the Infor document management to that particular job operation. In this case, we do have one document here, and I can click on my button to see what that document looks like. In this case, we have an assembly document that I can use to perform that operation. And to get the job going, I would just, select which operation I'm going to be working on. Hit my start run, it'll get me started on that job, and same thing, when I'm finished with it, I would just come back and say that I'm ending, which that button would light up if it knew I was actively on any jobs, and just give it a quantity and tell it that I'm finished. You also have the ability to do Kanban transactions if you are using any type of Kanban system. It's fully designed to work with Kanban replenishments. And you can also do quality. You can assign in-process quality inspection and quality tests at certain operations and perform that all through the kiosk, along with job material issues, returns, receipts, and serial number lot utilization. That's a quick look at Factory Track. There's a lot more that you can do with it. It is a fully capable labor, material, and time and attendance system. Once we have that schedule and we looked at all of our planning information, we also have the ability now to utilize something called Capable to Promise through APS. Capable to Promise can work at estimates or order entry. So here we're looking at a particular order. And if we're entering a new order, at the time we're entering it, we have the ability to say, we have a due date for the order line. And today, by the way, is 9/15, so our due date is 9/22. We're ordering 3 of this item, but I can ask the system to get my Capable to Promise. And what this button does is it bangs it against the schedule that the Advanced Planning and Scheduling utility created, and it checks to see if it could actually fit that job in to that schedule on time. And here you can see I get that red exclamation say, well, no, you can't. You want it on 9/22. We can't do it until 10/8. Do you want that? I can look at the detail behind that to see why it's scheduling late, to see if I can possibly manipulate something, but we're not going to look into that right now. But what I can do here is either accept that date. If I say yes to that, it's going to change my due date to 10/8, but it will keep this 9/22 as my original request. If I say no, it'll keep 9/22 as my due date, but it'll know that that my 10/8 is the projected date. I'm going to say yes, just as our example here. So now you can see 10/8 is my due date. 10/8 is the projected date, which, by the way, just doing that check puts it in the schedule for me. So it is in that planning schedule automatically already. I don't have to wait until scheduling runs tonight for it to get input in there. So if somebody else brings an order in and tries to put something in also for that date, it knows that the capacity is already taken for this particular job, even though the schedule hasn't rerun yet, or the planning system. But notice what it also does. It keeps that 9/22, which was the original date I tried to get it by, it keeps that as my request date. So as things may change in my schedule, APS is always looking to see if it could still, hey, can we get to that 9/22 now? No? Okay, we're still at 10/8. But each time it's running, it's always trying to see if it could still bring it up to that request date. So it doesn't just ignore that once you change it. It still knows that you do possibly want it, and if it can make it sooner, it will. So it's a great tool at order entry or at the estimating stage to be able to tell a customer while on the phone with them, hey, yes, I can do it by that date, or I can't do it by that date, but here's when I can do it. Is that acceptable? And then we also have things called work order list production. There are two things that we can do. We have first production schedule items, and a production schedule, think of as, hey, we make these items all the time, and we just want to produce them on a regular basis. We don't want to have to generate work orders or job orders. We don't want to have people, clocking in and out of each operation on those. We just want to know that they need to be made on a regular basis, and the folks in those areas know that they need to make them. This way, we're only reporting time if needed to an actual resource as opposed to a job. And the only thing we do is report the completion of that item, and it knows to backflush all of the materials and labor for the bill of material and routing for these production schedules. So it's a great way to get jobs through the shop that you make all the time. They're a standard cost. I'm not concerned with capturing actual labor hours or actual material cost within it. I do want to backflush all of that because I want it to schedule, and it will still schedule what it thinks it needs to make it, but it's not going to force you to have to scan completions or in and outs or create material issues for those jobs. And then the other thing is the just-in-time production transactions, which this doesn't hit the schedule. You don't pre-schedule these. These are just things that come along that you just want to make, off the cuff. That, hey, we need to produce this part. We ran out. Maybe it's replenishing Kanban bins for a manufactured part. So all we do here is tell it the item we made, how many we made, and if it's lot controlled or traced, we can enter that information too, and that's it. We process it, and it will also backflush a standard bill of material for us. But no need for a job order, any barcoding or work orders, or doing any transactions other than saying I made it and here's how many I made. Advanced forecasting. So beyond standard forecasting, which you can import from an Excel spreadsheet, possibly, if you wanted to just say that, hey, I want to tell the system how many parts and when I need them, and just load that into my forecast and do that more manually. But we also have an option called advanced forecasting, which gives you the ability to take details from the system or history from the system for certain items. In this case, we're looking at our famous FA 10,000 bicycle, but it's gathering all of the historical data for it, and then I can perform statistical calculations to create a forecast from it. So these are all the most popular calculations that a forecast would use. And then you also have the option to just choose best method, which means that the system will automatically choose based on what it sees as the historical performance of that item. It'll decide which of these different statistical calculations or statistical methods would be best to apply to that particular item. That is the most common thing that folks would use on this, but it's a great tool because it takes the data from the history from your system and gives you the ability to create the forecast right from here. And then you can create a forecast for that item and import from all of your different customers that might have that item, and it combines all of that. So you can do a lot of statistical analysis and a lot deeper dive into the forecasting and analysis before loading it into the system. Infor provides a complete solution with its cloud suites. Let's take a look at some of the other things that are included that are normally third-party products in other systems. CloudSuite Industrial truly is a complete solution for an entire manufacturing facility. And we're just going to show really quick overviews of all of the other parts of the system, not actually all of the other, but some important parts of what also comes with the SaaS model. And starting with the integrated quality management system, it's a full integrated solution for quality as opposed to running a third-party solution that you would normally find. And it does, if we look at an overview, it covers everything from vendor performance quality, in-process quality, and customer quality. And of course, everything that goes along with those. Just a quick look at something like QC items as an example. You have the ability to, looking at this item here, see we have it listed twice for vendors, and if we should look at the first one, we can see that this is a certified vendor, so we know that that's a dock to stock when that comes in on a purchase receipt, and we don't have to do any collection. However, if it comes in from a vendor that is not defined, we're doing inspection based on receipts. Lots of things you can do. It is a full suite. I can look at all of the different functions within quality that as a quality manager I need to be looking at. It's all listed for me, and obviously things in red are things that are late or behind, and I can drill into those things. We also have a fully integrated projects module that comes with Infor CloudSuite Industrial. So for those companies that not only produce discrete manufactured items, you can also create projects. Maybe you have larger things that you want to capture costs of engineering and design and contract reviews and things like that, and capture all of those costs at a higher level, and also combine multiple jobs or work orders or customer orders or service orders. All of that can tie into a single project and be able to capture all of that cost associated with that project at the high level. And looking at it from a data view level, just to make this easy, looking at my active projects, I can view my project test that I have here, and you can see I have tasks associated with it for contract review, engineering, design, production, testing, shipping, and all of these each have their own cost codes associated with them where I can report labor or material usage and capture all of that cost. I can see what my forecast is, my total actual costs against that, and of course percent completes and cost to complete along the way. So all of the things that we're transacting within a project and is being rolled up at the higher project level, at which point I can create different revenue recognition stages or invoice stages, so I can define what I want those milestones to be, whether I want to do a 25% invoice at contract review perhaps, and then maybe another 50% once I finish the design and go into production, and then the balance at shipping. So I can set all of that up and even separate my invoicing from my revenue recognition along the way. Maybe I only want to recognize revenue at the end. I can set up retention if the customer you're working with has retention requirements, and it will automatically invoice and hold back that retention percentage that you define along the way. So it's a fully integrated project module, a great tool not only for aerospace and defense manufacturers, but even commercial manufacturers and to some point discrete manufacturers that want to be able to capture different parts of a project along the way. Service management. Full service management. A lot of companies today not only produce products, but they service those products. They have field service for those products. They'll have warranties on those products. They'll take calls from customers for incidents. So all of that is captured in a full service module within CloudSuite Industrial, where you can schedule service partners and field service folks, whether they're employees or contractors that are doing that for you, and put it on their calendars. As a field service tech out in the field doing work, we have a service application on our phone. So I can look at what my appointments are. I can go and look at what the service orders are that I need to be working on out in the field. So I can see what I need to do, and of course I can use my phone map to go to the customer that I'm assigned to be at. I can log in with the clock, and it'll start an actual labor ticket for me, and then hit the clock again when I'm done with the service order. I can see any notes associated with the service order. I can attach pictures using my phone if I wanted to record that, and all of this is going to be connected to our service module within CloudSuite Industrial. So everything I do here is going to show up to anybody using the module within CloudSuite. I can see if there are any pictures associated with it. I can attach documents. I can get electronic sign-off from the customer. And all of that will actually show up back in as a document within CloudSuite Industrial. A quick financial overview. Typical financials, it is a full-blown financial suite. Some of the things that we would just want to highlight are things like being able to collect project financial information, and of course fixed assets that a lot of times is a third-party application also, but that's part of the core financial package within CloudSuite Industrial. If we look at our general ledger setup, we do multi-site. Full multi-site, you can have as many sites and warehouses as you can possibly put in your system. A quick example at the corporate level, and that breaks down into possibly international financial entities across your organization, and those can break down into manufacturing sites and warehouses. And everything rolls up to whatever level you wish it to roll up to. Also have unit codes, so a nice way of breaking down your chart of accounts and dimensionalizing it by things like departments, product codes, end user types, and whatever you might want to define as another dimension for separating your chart of accounts. Also a good example for financials using our home pages that we talked about earlier. Here's where I can create my own controller homepage from the standard homepage and use that from a financial reporting and analytics perspective. And I can even put my Burst Business Intelligence reports built into it as a widget, so I can use the application right within my homepage and be able to do all of the same things that I would in the full application. So it's a really great way to get to the data you want on your financial side. And then the other thing we have is Excel reporting. So within Excel, we have a plugin that connects us directly to our financial information within CloudSuite. It's already linked for us. We have a report wizard that has some standard type reports, although we can create our own also here. I'll just do a quick profit and loss statement. I'm going to use 2017, which was a busier year in my demo database. And dynamic parameters, so that I can change the parameters for the report right on the Excel sheet rather than regenerating the report. So you can see it pulls up a profit and loss statement for me, and here's my parameters that I can now change if I want to, and it will refresh the data right from my CloudSuite Industrial database for me. The other thing I can do here is I might want to look and see what makes up a particular number, so I can drill into that data. I can either open up the actual CloudSuite form if I wanted to, or I can open it up in another worksheet if I just want to stay in Excel and then drill in here. But within Excel, I have the ability to do whatever else I can do with Excel with these reports and save it. So it'll save that format along with what I pulled out of CloudSuite Industrial. So a real nice tool for folks that are comfortable working in Excel or like to work in Excel and be able to get their data and do what they want to do with it here. And finally, what we want to talk about is some industry-specific modules that come with CloudSuite Industrial. So while it's a full manufacturing suite, there are very specific needs for certain industries, and CloudSuite does come with those as part of the SaaS model. So if you're within one of these industries, whether it's automotive, molding, printing, or process manufacturing, there are industry-specific packs that help with those processes also. Infor CloudSuite Industrial is a complete end-to-end solution. Let us know if you'd like to see more detail about any of the functionality you've seen or functionality you haven't seen, because there's a lot that we haven't shown also. Contact us at the link below. Thank you very much.